Hey everyone, welcome to Data Millennials. I'm Atul, and in this video we are going to see how we can create and customize stacked area chart in Google Data Studio or Looker. So we will be creating this stacked area chart which you can see on my screen from scratch. But before we go ahead and start creating this stacked area chart, let's first discuss what exactly is the stacked area chart and how it can be useful in your dashboard. So an stacked area chart is a variation on the line or time series chart. It uses shaded areas under the plotted lines on the graph to indicate the volume of data represented by the lines. Like a time series, stacked area chart are useful for seeing how your data trends over a specific period of time. As you can see over here, the stacked area chart lets you visualize a single dimension or the breakdown dimension and a single metric plotted over the time frame. More specifically, the stacked chart shows the contribution of each data series by stacking the data series on this chart. So let's go and create a simple stacked area chart. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on edit so that I can get into edit mode, and I'll add a new page so that I can show you how we can create this stacked area chart from scratch. So in order to select an stacked area chart, the first thing that you need is a data source. Once you have your data source, then you can go to add a chart button over here and select area chart or stacked area chart under this area section. And once you have clicked it, then you will be able to add stacked area chart on your Looker report. So before we go ahead and work on this stacked area chart, let us copy this header and paste it over here. Now, when you select a stacked area chart, by default Looker will select some of the dimension and the metrics value as a record count. So we will go to setup section as well as style section and discuss everything one by one. So let's discuss about this setup section. So this option in a chart setup panel determines how the data is organized and displayed on your graph. And the first option is data source. A data source provides the connection between the component, which is this chart, and the underlying data set which you will be uploading or loading on your Looker. For example, I am using this area chart data which is over here, and if I have not connected it, then what I need to do is that I need to click over here. I can select any of the added data source from here, or I can click on add a data if I have not added my data at all. Then the Looker will help us to connect to a data using the Google connectors. You can select any of the connector on which your data is residing. For us, it's on Google Sheet. So you can click on Google Sheet and then you can select your specific Google Sheet name and load your data on Looker. So for us, we have already loaded the data. This is area chart data which I'm using for our stacked area chart, which is over here. So we have country code, then we have number of items sold in thousands, and we have date. Okay, so we will be plotting the number of items sold against each country for each and every day. Now the next option that we have over here is date range dimension. So this option appears if your data source has a valid date range dimension. For example, for us in our data set, we have a date column over here, which you can see here. We have a date column over here, and automatically Looker put this date column as a date range dimension. If your data set doesn't have a date column, then it will be blank. Now the next option that we have over here is dimension. So for stacked area chart, the dimension over here is actually the time dimension. A time dimension provides a time-based x-axis for your chart. The data type of this dimension determines the level of the time series. For example, to visualize a daily data, we have to use the data type as date. So by default, Looker has also selected date in this dimension, and we can only select the date over here when we are using area chart or stacked area chart. Now we have an option of drill down over here. This option appears on chart and it gives viewers a way to reveal additional level of detail within a chart. When you turn on the drill down option, each dimension you add over here becomes another level of detail you can drill into. But for us, we are not going to use this drill down option, so I'll keep this drill down option off. Then we have a breakdown dimension. This breakdown dimension displays the metric data broken down according to the selected dimension. For example, a chart showing the annual sales data could be broken down by sales region dimension, or by the employee who had sold, or by an employee ID dimension to show the sales by sales associate. As the looker has already selected the breakdown dimension at a country level, so you can see over here that we are seeing the record count at a country level over here, okay, for each date. Now, one of the most important things in setup is metric. Metric measures the thing contained in dimension and provide the numeric scale and the data series for the chart. Metrics are the aggregation that comes from the underlying data. So we want to show the number of items sold in thousands as a metric, so that we can compare our breakdown dimension, which is country, in this graph. Now if you have an optional metrics, then you can select this optional metrics and select additional matrices over here. But for us, we do not have any optional metrics, so we'll keep it off. Now the next option that we have over here is metric sliders, and metric sliders helps you or your user to select the data range, or you can see the value range for your metric that you have used. So if I keep this metric slider on, you will see that you have a metric slider over here, and you have an option to select value from a range. For example, if I want to select value from 5 to 50, I can slide it to 50 and my data in my chart will get filtered between these ranges which I have selected. So let's clear it out. Now the next option within setup is breakdown dimension sort. If you want to sort your breakdown dimension by ascending or descending order, you can select it from here. So if you select ascending, then the number of items sold, which is our breakdown dimension, will get sorted in ascending order, and if you select descending, then this breakdown dimension sort will sort our graph in descending order. Now the next option that we have is default date range. So with this option, you can select either auto dot range selection or the custom date range selection. If you select custom date range selection, then you have an option to select the date range, and you have multiple options over here, from fixed, then last 7 days, last 14 days, till this advanced option where you can select a start date and end date. So based on your selection, you can add or select the date for which the data will get reflected on your chart. But most often it is suggested that you should always select auto, so that your viewers can come to your dashboard or your report and see the past dates or months value on your chart. Now the last option that we have over here in setup is filter. If you want to filter your chart, then you can add a filter over here by clicking on add a filter. Then you have to click on create a filter, and you have to give name of the filter, and then you can either include or exclude something from the dataset by selecting a particular field and by selecting a condition. Once you create a filter, then you have to click on save to save that filter, and once you save it, then your chart or graph will show data based on the filter that you have applied. So let's go to the style section, but before we go to style section, let's click on view and see our chart over here. Now here I have a metric slider, and based on my selection, my chart will get updated, right? And the next thing that we need to do in this chart is to make this chart a little bit of more beautiful, or make it more visually appealing. To make our graph or charts more visually appealing, we have to go to style properties of the chart. So let's go to style properties of this chart. So you might be thinking that what exactly is the style property, right? So a chart's style property controls the overall presentation and appearance of this chart. So the first option that we have in the style is a show stack. When it is checked, it stacks the data series basically on top of each other. Then we have an option of 100% stacking. If we select this, then the stack chart shows the contribution of each data series to 100% of total value. So let's remove this. The next option that we have is show cumulative. When checked, the data series are summed over time, otherwise the data is shown with no additional aggregation. So let's remove this. The next option that we have over here is show points. It displays the individual data points. Viewer can keep their mouse over a data point to display its value. So let's go to view and put our mouse over this point. So it's displaying the value of the two countries for this specific date, which is 9th of January. Now the next option within style for us is show data level. It displays the individual values of the data point. When we had checked this data level, then we have three other options: this compact, this decimal precision, and number of series. So for this compact number, if you select this, then this will rounds the number and displays the unit indicator. For example, 550,000 becomes 550k. So it will rounds the number for you. Then the next option is decimal precision. It sets the number of decimal places on your metric value. If you select 2, then you will see that the 2 decimal places has been added over here in the metric value. But for us, we'll keep it 0 because we know that we don't have any decimal values in our metric. Now the last option over here is number of series. It determines the number of secondary dimension series shown in the chart. For example, in our chart we have 2 series. Suppose if I want to show only one series, then I can select 1, and then the first series based on the data is India, which will be appearing over here, and the next series, which is for Bahrain, is not appearing because we have selected only one series. Now suppose if you have 10 series, then you can select 10, 15 or 20. Max you can select up to 20 series on a single stacked area chart. So let's keep it at 10, which is by default given by Looker. Okay, then the next option that we have under style is color by. So this section controls how your data is colored over here. The first option over here is series color or the series order color by. When we select this option, it uses the current theme to color the data according to its position in the chart. This option emphasizes the ranking of the data over the identity of the data. And we can set the specific color using each data series by color picker, which is available over here. So we can select the first series, which is India, as this red color. Okay, let's select this as red color. And for Bahrain, let's select it as black color. Okay. So if you have 10 series, then you can select the different color for each of these 10 or 20 series, which is plotted over your stacked area chart. Now the next option that we have is dimension value. So color for each dimension value in the chart with the color specified in the dimension value color map, which is over here. You can see that for each of the values, the color has been mapped for dimension values, so that you do not have to go and manually change the color. This option ensures that your data uses color consistently regardless of the position of the data in the chart. But currently I think series order for us looks much better as compared to dimension values. Series order is much visually appealing so that you can select your color. Now the next option that we have is reference line. If you want to compare your series with a particular reference, then you can add a reference line based on the value. So if you click on add a reference line, then you will have 4 options over here. The first option is the type. You have to select a type of the reference where you can select the constant value or the parameter from your data set. The next option is the value. You can select the value by default Suppose if I'm selecting 75, then you will see that we have a reference line over here, and we can compare each of the data series against this reference line. And we can say that on 7th of January, for both of these countries, our sales was above our reference line, which was 75. For few of the days, our sales was down as compared to reference line. Now, if you want to change the axis of this reference line, you can do it from here, left y-axis or right y-axis. Okay. And the label, you can give a label to this reference line. So right now, by default, it's given reference line #1. You can say, for example, you can take average of the sales. So let's take an average of the sales at our overall level. So our average is 53. Okay. So let's keep it at 53. And then as label, we'll say average sales is 53. So now we can compare the values with this reference line, which is average sales is 53. Now if you want to add another reference line, you can add another reference line. Then the next option within style is missing data. So this option appears when your time dimension is missing, or your time dimension has missing data. Looker Studio offers 3 ways to dealing with this situation. So there are 2 ways in which the Looker specifies the option for us if there is missing data. The first one is line to 0 and second one is line break. So in order to understand this missing data value, let's delete 2 of the dates from here so that we can see what is the actual effect of this missing data. So let's delete data for 2 days over here, or 1 day over here. Okay, let's delete for 9th of January. Okay, and let's refresh the data over here in our Looker Studio. So by default, Looker selects line to 0, and you can see over here what happened. So when you select this option, a line series will drop to 0 from the missing date, and this is the default option which is selected by Looker. The next option that we have is line break. When this option is selected, the missing date appears as a break in the data series. You can see here that it appears as a break in the data series. Let's go and undo this so that we'll have a continuous series over here. Let's refresh data again. Okay, now the next option within this style is axis. So this option controls the display of the chart axis title and scales. A right y-axis section appears when you have more than one matrix in your chart. As we do not have more than one metric in our chart, so a right y-axis section will not appear for us over here. Now we have axis options. So the first option is show axis. Then we have reverse y-axis and reverse x-axis. So what this show axis does is that it shows or hides the chart axis. If you select it, then it will show the chart axis. If you unselect it, it will hide the chart axis. Reverse y-axis direction controls the vertical display of the y-axis. Then this reverse x-axis direction controls the horizontal display of your x-axis. The next option in style for us is left y-axis, and the first option over here in left y-axis is show axis title. It shows or hides the x-axis title. As you can see over here, if I've selected, the title is shown. If I unselect, the title is not showing over here. Then we have axis minimum and axis maximum. These sets the minimum and maximum value of the y-axis. Then we have this custom hash mark interval. It controls the interval between the axis ticks. Then we have this log scale. It makes the y-axis scale logarithmic. Similarly, for x-axis, we have the same thing that we discussed over here. Now the next option that we have is the grid. So these option controls the look of the chart grid. So the first option is axis color. It sets the color of your x-axis line. Then we have grid color. It sets the color of the grid line. So these are the grid lines over here, and let's keep it transparent, so we'll have a transparent background of the grid. For this grid we have the font family. If you want to change the font family, you can change it from here. You have axis font size and label font size. If you want to change it, you can change it from here. Then we have this chart background color. If you want to change the chart background under this border, you can change it, and if you want to change the chart border color, you can change it from here. So let's keep it as yellow, more deeper yellow color. Okay, then the next option that we have over here is legend. So these option determines the placement of the chart legend. The first option is none, so no legend will appear. Then the second option is right. The legend will appear on the right hand side. The third option is bottom. The legend will appear on the bottom of the chart. And the last option is the top. The legend will appear on the top. We have legend font color over here. We can change the font colors. So let's keep it blue. And we have the font size also. We can change the font size, and the minimum size is 8 pixel to maximum size is 96 pixels. So let's keep it at auto. Okay, and we have a font family. If you want to change the font family of your legend, you can do it from here. Now the next option within legend that we have is alignment. If you want to set the alignment of the legend relative to the selected position, then you can select this alignment. So the first one is left, then the next option is center, and the last option that we have is right. So let's keep it at center. Then we have max line. So it sets the number of lines used by the legend. If the number of series over here requires more line, then we can increase the maximum number of lines over here. Now the last option under this style is background and border. Within this background and border, the first option is background. It sets the chart background for us. Let's keep this color. Okay, now after this background color we have border radius. Border radius adds the rounded border to your chart background. When the radius is 0, the background shape has 90 corner over here. But when border radius is 100% or 100 degree, it produces a circular shape. The next option that we have over here is opacity. It sets the chart opacity. 100% of the opacity completely hides the object behind the chart, and 0% of opacity makes the chart invisible. So it's always suggested you should keep either 90% or 100% of the chart opacity. Now within this background and border we have the last option, which is border color. So it sets the chart border color. So let's keep the chart border color as this red. Okay, then we have an option of border weight. If you want to increase the border weight, we can change the border weight. The minimum is 1 and the maximum is 5. Then the last option within this border is the border style. It sets the chart border style. You have 4 options: solid, then you have dashed, then you have dotted, and you have the last option of double. Okay, so let's keep dashed over here and click on view. So as you can see over here, this stacked area chart that we have created from scratch uses the shaded area region under the plotted lines of the graph to indicate the number of items that has been sold on a particular date for 2 countries, which is India and Bahrain. And this stacked area chart indicates the volume of data represented by these lines, like a time series. So this is how basically you can create and customize stack area chart in Looker or Google Data Studio. Happy learning and see you in the next video.